I am a hospice chaplain through Sears Methodist Hospice here in Abilene, and I would have never dreamed that this would be a position that I would have, set out for. Like as a kid, what are you going to do when you grow up and be a hospice chaplain? I would have never said that, but I've really figured out that this is something that's fulfilling to me on multiple levels. As far as my calling and a lot of my gifts and skills. And, I get to be with people in really difficult times, providing stability for them, in the midst of chaos. And so, which a lot that's kind of the heart of pastoral ministry. I think it's just being there for people in difficult times, being that leadership. But I still feel like there's possibilities for me that to minister in a bivocational setting, because there's still this need for me to, within the church, whatever that looks like, there's ways for me to fulfill other parts of my calling, as far as teaching and ministering in a setting such as Crosspoint. So.
And I'm the marketing director at Mesa Springs, which is also with Sears Methodist, and that is basically setting up housing for senior adults, 55 and older. Which may not sound like a ministry position, but I assure you that it is. I get to work a lot with people who are widowed, and they're dealing with a lot of fear and intimidation about being alone. And Aaron and I have both recognized that working with senior citizens is oftentimes ministering to the forgotten. People everyone who loved and cared about them is passed on or moved on or too busy. So we've found that it's definitely a demographic that needs attention, and it's interesting to see how our hearts have been pulled away from youth for some time and drawn over to senior adults. But certainly a surprise to us, but it's been an interesting journey.
Something that I feel like that Crosspoint represents for me personally is, I've always thought about church ministry, church planting, if you want to call it that, and the possibility of it. I've always had a lot of ideas about it, about how to do it, but I always felt a little unsure about those, or a little scared to maybe voice those. And so for me, Crosspoint kind of represents hanging flesh. It's allowed me to kind of put flesh on what it is that I'd already kind of conceived in my mind, a lot of it, and it's given kind of shape and form to that, and given me some confidence that maybe what I was thinking was right, and it was legitimate, it's able to be done.
The ministry that we were in before was in a church that had a very busy calendar, a full calendar. There was always something to do, and sometimes it felt like we were doing so much ministry that we never really got to do ministry, the stuff that we really felt compelled to do. And I'd find myself feeling like I was looking at things I had to do on the calendar, and I had to go support it so that little thing didn't die. Like we have to keep that Bible study going, so we need to go participate and support that so it doesn't die. And sometimes it just kind of wears on you when you feel like everything you're doing is just trying to keep something from dying, instead of just going with what's kind of alive and birthing out of you. If I could put it in an analogy, I'd like to use what we call in the healthcare industry respite care. And that is where a caretaker, someone who 24 hours a day has to care for someone who is physically unable to care for themselves. And so they may come and drop off that loved one at Mesa Springs maybe for 3 days or something, so that they can have respite, which is rest. Spiritually, we were the caretakers of other people's souls and leading them. And it just kind of got to this point where we needed to come somewhere where we could get rest and respite.
I think on that note, I think it's allowed us to be able to revisualize, what ministry can look like, and so we don't feel like we're working within the same, boundaries and parameters that we felt obligated to work within previously. And it's given us that time to just regroup and reorganize and rethink. And so we feel this freedom to, seek sustainable income outside of, the church, but yet still devote ourselves to the life of the church. And because we believe in it, and we think it's good and it's right. So it's been very freeing for us, so we feel like Crosspoint supported us in that pursuit.